Hello and welcome to The Recipe, brought to you by Filippo Berio. I'm your host, Theo Randall, chef patron at Theo Randall Cucina Italiana. Today I'm joined by a cook and writer who has transformed the way Britain thinks about plant-based food. A best-selling author, she is famous for transforming humble vegetables into delicious dishes. Please welcome Meera Sodha. Meera, it's a real pleasure to have you here. This show is all about recipes with meaning, recipes that tell a story. What are you going to cook for us today?
Today, I'm going to cook you my Malaysian Dal Curry.
And so what's in your Malaysian Dal Curry?
So it's full of so many of my favourite ingredients. There's lemongrass, curry leaves, there's tamarind paste. It's a very rich, aromatic coconut red lentil dal that I eat by the bucketful. I love it. And it's something that a lot of Indians kind of grow up eating.
And this has a special meaning to you, this particular dish?
It does. Well, it's the first thing that I cooked after months of not cooking. And that's because I fell out of love with food.
What? You fell out of love with food?
It's
How
true.
could you?
I didn't mean to. Well, I had a breakdown.
Right.
And so I fell out of love with life. And food was sort of a part of that. And so I just stopped cooking. I didn't really eat an awful lot. I didn't really do an awful lot. And I needed to find my way back to the kitchen somehow. And then, there was this moment when Hugh, my husband, he was doing all of the cooking and looking after our daughters and me and himself. And then he asked if I could cook for him. And it wasn't because he was just wanted dinner that night. It's because he was struggling. Yeah. And so I jumped into action and jumped into the kitchen, and this is what I made, this Malaysian dal curry. Dal is obviously comfort food for me, and so I've eaten an awful lot of dal, but it wasn't this dal that I grew up eating. Right. Hugh and I went to Singapore, and we really loved this dal. And I think when I sort of sprang into action, I was looking in the store cupboard, saw some coconut milk, lentils, and some spices. And this is just what I wanted to cook. I can't say there was an awful lot of thought behind it. It's just something that I really thought that maybe he would love to eat, and that's something that I really, really wanted to cook. And it was like a bit of a revelation for me because I hadn't wanted to cook anything in a very long time. And so it was very much from the heart or from the belly. I felt so disconnected from my mind and my body and from food. And when I cooked this, I felt that connection again, that love again, that joy again, that pleasure in eating it, pleasure in cooking it, real sense of purpose. And so I promised myself that I would start to cook. And I think for years I'd been cooking, but I was quite disconnected maybe from what I'd been cooking because I was cooking for a column that I write weekly or cooking to publish books. And that actually was that food that I really wanted. Was it really coming from me, or did I want to do that for other people? And so I started keeping a record of these recipes, and that notebook that I was writing in turned into my cookbook dinner.
And so did you find that, you're writing these recipes and were you actually cooking them at home for the family, or there was a kind of disconnect with the actual recipe and family? Was there there's two different types of recipe?
Well, that's what happened previously. Yeah. And so I have two young daughters, and I'd spend all day recipe testing. And I think I was in search for perfection and for something that, maybe it was Instagrammable, maybe it tasted incredible. I had to keep on pushing it. And maybe that was lime pickle one day. And the girls would come back from nursery or school, and then they couldn't give them that for dinner. And so often we'd cook something for them, and then Hugh and I would eat something later. And so we were quite disconnected as a family in terms of how we ate. And so the food that I now cook is something that we all eat together, and we all share a meal. It doesn't necessarily always go down very well. I have a 5-year-old.
Right, well,
but it's something that's really important to me because I've just realised the power in actually sharing that meal and sitting around a table, and it's my absolute favourite thing to do.
Family life is obviously very important because, in your cookbooks, you mentioned Hugh a few times.
Yes.
He's obviously a huge support for you, as a family should be. Does he cook for you?
He does.
He does.
He's an absolutely fantastic cook, and he made your stuffed peppers from Verdura.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got great taste.
He's got great taste. But he's actually a fantastic cook. He's a very sort of ready, steady cook. He'll just look in the fridge and then just sort of throw something together, which is the best kind of cooking. I like that. It doesn't always work out, but usually he's fantastic. Yeah, so we both love cooking, and we cook very differently different sort of dishes. He'll never sort of cook anything Southeast Asian. He's very much loves Italian food.
Oh, good man.
Yeah.
So is this recipe something that you serve a lot at home? Is it kind of like, I always find that during the week, you might have a particular day where you serve a certain dish. Does this pop up during the week?
I should really have a plan, but as yet, I still don't have a plan.
Okay.
But no, I batch cook it and cook it week in, week out. It's something that I serve to friends. There'll always be some in the freezer. And so it's a regular, and we're very lucky to live quite close to a place that has a real tandoor oven. And so we'll just go and grab some freshly made naan. What I was going to say is what I love about dal in general, so not just this dal, is that you can be like a cook that's just starting out, and you literally just bung everything into a pot, and if you leave it there for long enough, it will taste really great. So it's got such a wide berth. And so if you're not sure about it, if you're like, oh, I've never made a dal before, I wonder how this is going to turn out, it's absolutely fine.
So what shall I do?
Could you chop these carrots, please?
Of course. How do you want them?
Little cubes.
Little cubes. Okay.
Little cubes.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So you mentioned a little wooden spoon. What was that all about? I mean, that's something your mother gave you, is it?
Yes. So when I started collecting family recipes and writing them down, I was sort of 29, 30, she gave me her wooden spoon on my 30th birthday with a little note that just said, happy cooking. And it has this big chunk sort of taken out of it. And I thought, well, she must have cooked like thousands of home-cooked meals.
This is the spoon?
No, it's not her spoon. But it sort of had a big chunk.
It is.
And this is the spoon. And actually I realised that it's because she kind of whacks it against the side of the pot, and with such force that's why it had such a big chunk taken out of it.
I see.
But it was quite, it was quite a significant. I felt like it was, don't hang up your boots just yet, Mum. But she has a brother or sister to it. But she is very much a very thrifty cook, and is very incredibly resourceful. And whilst we might sort of buy lots of different things, she'd been using this spoon for years, and like ever since she started cooking.
There is something about a wooden spoon, though. I mean, I've got many wooden spoons at home, and there's just something kind of lovely about them. I mean, like when you feel them, they just seem to be the right thing. I think when you're stirring a pan with a metal spoon, it's just wrong.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have this. And also, can I show you it? Do you know it? You already know this trick, but can you pass me the oil? Thank you. So, you can test whether your oil's actually hot enough.
Wow, okay.
By
Maybe I don't know this trick.
Do you not know this trick? Okay, well, let me show you. Because some people, how do you test if your oil is hot enough? Is it you kind of hold a hand
I just
over
look for it to sort of like move away from the pan.
But if you put your wooden spoon in there, you see how there's bubbles forming there at the bottom of the wooden spoon? That's how you know your oil is hot enough to kind of go in. You want it to release into the oil. Oh. Yes,
I never knew that.
Did you not know that?
Yes. So thank you.
I can't believe I taught you something. That's amazing.
So what was it like growing up? I mean, your parents came over to the UK.
1972.
1972.
Yeah.
And you grew up in Lincolnshire.
Where like a third of our produce comes from.
Yeah.
All of our cauliflower, potatoes,
yeah, it's true.
Carrots, everything really. I mean, what was it like growing up there? It was quite strange because we were the only Indians in the village. And
what was that like? I mean, was it difficult?
It was quite strange. I mean, I didn't know any different, and so it was normal for me growing up there. But I didn't, it was very I didn't feel like I fit in with the community. There was a big farming community there. Not very many Indians in the school that I went to either. But I'd had these kind of split between going to school and being surrounded by English white people. And then on the weekends, I'd probably end up in Leicester going to a wedding or some sort of religious thing with my aunts, all these aunts in the kitchen, and they're all sort of whipping up batches of chapati and things like that.
So your parents wanted you to become a doctor or a lawyer. How did you get out of that?
Well, they weren't particularly forceful, but I think there was just this understanding that they had my mum was quite, grew up in relative wealth in Uganda, but then they were kicked out by Idi Amin and they lost everything.
Yeah.
And then she wanted some financial security for me. And so that to her looked like, and it does to many kind of Indians, this is a well-trodden trope that Indian parents want you to be a doctor or a dentist or an engineer or something like that. And so that's what I thought I would be. But I was also grew up in the countryside, quite creative. I was always making something, but I didn't really know what that looked like. I just thought maybe it's a hobby, or I don't really know. And my mum would always kick me out of the kitchen because it was her domain, and she wanted me to go up and do my homework. And so whenever I sort of stuck my nose over the counter to see what she was doing, she said, go and do your homework, go and study. There'll be time for cooking later. And I suppose she was a housewife, and she was a brilliant housewife. There's nothing wrong with housewives, I think. And she cooked every single day for us. But she wanted my sister and I to be able to kind of go out into the world, earn some money, be able to stand on our own 2 feet and not be reliant on money or marrying money to be able to do what we wanted to do. And I appreciate that sort of thought and that sentiment.
You've done all right out of it.
I've done all right out of it, yeah.
And so food, where did, obviously the food came from your childhood. I mean, I think, I've mentioned this a few times in the podcast about how our mothers particularly are very important in our kind of growing up and love of food. So obviously your mother was a huge part of that.
Yes, she was. I mean, she cooked this fabulous food. And actually, the one thing that I did get out of university was that I was out on Brick Lane. My moment of realisation was that I was out on Brick Lane with some friends from uni, and they were all white, and they said, Meera, what should we order from the menu? And it's Brick Lane, it's a typical curry house. There are no Indians to be seen for miles apart from the guys in the kitchen. Yeah. And I was just so surprised that they thought that this is actually what I'd grown up eating, and that I knew that this kind of like korma and, this chicken tikka masala was something that I ate at home. It was like, because it's very much boilerplate food, and it's made by the gentlemen from Sylhet, they're Bangladeshi cooks. Yeah. And, typically it's like saltier, oilier, and it's premier, it's to mop up all the booze when you kind of go out drinking. Of course, and that was the moment that I realised that I just needed to, go back to mum and learn how to make her food, our food, that had been passed down from generation to generation, mother to daughter, for decades, centuries maybe, apart from me, because I was planning on becoming, I didn't know what I was planning on becoming, a management consultant maybe. Yeah,
but that was the amazing moment then. So that almost sort of spurred you on to make a change.
Well, so then I was actually working in marketing when I finally got around to writing this book, or writing these recipes down. But it did inspire a change in that I went back home and would just go home and just watch mum. And, I'd sort of level off the teaspoons, and I'd ask her lots of questions like, what are you doing? Why are you adding that? Why is it important? And she said, you should taste your ingredients before, during and after cooking. And that way you'll learn what they do and how they behave. And actually, that's still some of the best advice that anybody has ever given me. Because then once you do learn how to use your ingredients, you don't have to just stick rigidly to any particular cuisine at all.
Sure.
You can just, you can fly then. And so it really felt like she'd given me, it was like I was a painter and suddenly had new colours with which to paint. It was a really, really lovely gift.
But that's just great mum common sense, which I think is the greatest.
Well, precisely. Yeah, it's just exactly that. It's just sort of growing up in the kitchen and asking questions and seeing. That's how she learned how to cook. In fact, she, when she was growing up, there was a Ugandan cook in the kitchen. And so, her mother taught the cook how to cook. And then I guess my mum learn't from a combination of the two of them. And that's why a lot of the words in our family kitchen are actually Swahili rather than Gujarati or Hindi. And so there's a lot of sort of Ugandan influence in our family kitchen. So I'm going to go in with some spices. Yeah.
So this is the
coriander. The bright, one of my favourite smells actually. I don't know if you'll be able to smell it over this, but it smells so happy making. And the cumin, I tend to use them in equal parts unless you kind of want to accentuate the brightness or the broodiness.
So you're quite an entrepreneur at heart, aren't you? You set up Fancy and Indian. Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Unbelievable. You've been doing some digging. Okay, so Fancy and Indian, my cousin was looking to get married to an Indian.
Fancy an Indian. It's such a great...
I wish I should have kept the URL.
Should have definitely kept it.
And she didn't really know. At the time when she was looking to get married, which wasn't that long ago, there were these books being passed around, and it was like, I don't know, Jayesh, and then his age, and then what he does for a living. It was all sort of antiquated and weird.
Accountant, lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Engineer. I just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was, I don't know if you'll have heard of JDate, but it was one of the first online dating agencies, Jewish dating.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, I could set up an Indian version of this. And so that's what I tried to do. But at the time, nobody knew, like, there were people coding, but nobody knew how to build a website.
What year was this?
This was 2004.
Oh my God, you really were ahead of the game.
Yes.
By a long way.
I mean, way ahead of, not that I could name all of those dating agencies, but Match.com, Shadi.com, you know, those ones that people have now become like billionaires, haven't they?
Yeah, of course they have, yeah.
Yeah, not me.
Could have been.
Could have been. Yeah.
It's fun.
Oh, it was really fun. I was, you know, we had T-shirts made up saying "Fancy an Indian." My sister and I would stand in Leicester Square trying to recruit people outside of the clubs. I mean, we had like a couple of different events, but in the end, it failed for quite a boring reason, which was like the website, the tech was very expensive back then, and we just couldn't quite get it to do what we needed it to do.
Yeah, sure.
And so now where you kind of have all this technology and you can just kind of say something into AI and it creates an app for you. You couldn't do that back then. And it was just too much money. And I was working in a call centre selling anti-wrinkle cream, working in a bar in the evenings, kind of making cocktails. And so, you know, I really needed to get a job, and then I started working at Innocent Drinks. I'm just building up the...
I can see the flavours are slowly going up there, yeah.
And that's it. That's the kind of flavour base done.
Yeah.
And so now this is just sort of chucking everything else in.
So apart from writing 4 best-selling cookbooks, you've been writing for The Guardian for almost a decade.
I have.
On being an expert on vegan food.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I call myself an expert, to be honest, but I've certainly been writing vegan recipes for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on veganism? I know you don't like putting, you know, labels on things, but is it as popular as it was? I mean, I remember just after lockdown, it just went kind of mad, and you could buy all these incredible things like vegan bacon and vegan-looking meat and all those kind of things. And what are your thoughts on those?
I mean, veganism has been popular for centuries.
Yeah.
There's so many different cultures and communities that have been eating mostly plants for centuries.
Well, look at Sri Lankan food. Sri Lanka is mostly...
Yeah, I mean, it's down to economics or religion or tradition, or purely because to raise livestock is a lot of work and is traditionally, and so people, when they did historically sacrifice an animal, it was always a celebration. And so it's not necessarily a new thing, but like veganism now in its current form, I suppose, has gone through that, like, you know, celebrity culture,
yes, of
pop
course.
culture or whatever. And so, I mean, I feel like the way that we've always eaten in our house and as Gujaratis is mostly, you know, vegan food, and it's sort of lacto-vegetarianism. So my grandma didn't eat eggs, and a lot of my aunts don't eat eggs. And so you're pretty much looking at vegan food apart from ghee, butter, and yogurt.
Yeah.
And those are the only things that they would eat, really. And so like 99% of that food is actually vegan.
But when there was a celebration, you know, like a big someone getting married or something, would they eat chicken or lamb or something?
No, they wouldn't actually.
Okay.
No. Although when my grandfather moved to Uganda, he was quite an open-minded kind of, he was a real character actually, my grandfather. And so he started hunting when he moved over.
Good for him.
I'm not sure if you can call that open-minded or not, but it's... and you know, and he really loved it. He was just he liked adventure.
Yeah.
And he would talk to the fishermen on the Nile, and he'd buy some fish, and then he'd take them to, you know, not every family had an oven. There would be one baker where they lived, and so they would take the fish to the one oven, or he'd bake. I think he baked. There's one story about him baking an antelope in the earth, making his own oven.
How long did that take?
I don't know.
A week?
Yeah, quite possibly. And so my mum actually did, my dad's sort of pure vegetarian, but my mum actually did grow up saying, I'm vegetarian, apart from that I really love like lasagna or like this or that. And I was like, that's not really vegetarian. But it's so hard, isn't it? Because we have these conversations, veganism, how many people have done veganuary, and that's what the media takes hold of. It's like, how are we doing with veganism? Well, I just think there's just like the bigger story is actually not that. It's about how many millions of people are eating much less meat on a more regular basis because, look at our supermarkets. Like 10 years ago, we didn't have anywhere near as like the varieties of tomatoes that you can get and the names, like there are so many. Up until, a little while ago, people used to complain about how watery the tomatoes were. And now, I don't know how, but you can get them all year round.
We get winter tomatoes. Incredible tomatoes,
Yes, so beautiful produce, available a lot of the time. Lots more cooks putting energy into this area as well to write recipes and to show people how you can transform, instead of having vegetables on the side and having the meat in the middle of your plate, how to transform a butternut squash into dinner for 4 people in the evening. Or main meal. And then because of cost and things. So I think it's not really about who's vegan, how many people are vegan, how many people aren't. It's more just this kind of lovely transition that people are taking to eat more widely and to eat more plants, which is brilliant.
So when you're writing for The Guardian, I mean, you must be thinking about being inspired by, what you would cook at home for your readers, because they must be thinking, right, I mean, you've got to think of so many things. You've got to think of affordability, you've got to think of seasonality, you've got to think about, food that looks good and would be, happy to cook it.
Yes.
And so how do you do that? Is there
I don't know.
do you ever
no process
at all?
I don't think so. But I remember talking to Diana Henry, and she said something that I still think is true. It's like recipe writing is like a muscle. Like the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It's sort of a lovely anti-fragile thing that people talk about now. Yeah. And that's how I feel about it. And actually I used to travel quite a lot and think that I needed to travel. And that's one of my favourite things to do, right? Is to go into people's homes and, what are you really eating? What are you cooking? And it's not what Instagram tells you that people are cooking. No. And especially not in Southeast Asia. Yeah. But, after having kids, I didn't really want to go so far and so far away from them. And I realised that actually, inspiration and creativity can just come from anywhere. And it could come from a conversation that we've had today, or it could come from opening the fridge and seeing 2 ingredients that are next to each other that you weren't expecting to look at next to each other, which is one of the recipes in my book is this kind of Korean chili paneer. And chili paneer is very much like it's an Indo-Chinese dish, but it's very much on the map. But Indians don't have a chili paste like the Koreans do with gochujang.
That's why you've got,
I was like, well, obviously we should put these 2 together because that's going to make things delicious and very quick and wonderful and also consistent as well, which is quite nice if you're a home cook. But you can kind of keep the gochujang in your fridge and it lasts forever in there. I think if you're kind of open to it, then it doesn't have to be travel.
Looking and smelling delicious. So you've got a finishing touch to this, have you?
I do, yeah. So because it's quite sort of a rich, creamy dal, which, by the way, you don't need to add this, but this is tamarind puree or tamarind paste, like it's sometimes known as, and it's sort of like tart and sweet, and so it just helps to kind of cut through everything.
A citrusy, tangy kind of taste.
Yeah, it's quite tangy. This one's very, very glossy. It does really vary, and so I tend to just add a little bit, stir it through, and then taste it and see kind of.
So just 1 teaspoon. That's it.
Yeah, well, some of it, because it's concentrated, some of it is very, very concentrated. And you can, if you go too far, you'll kind of, be smacking your lips. Yes, exactly. So I'm going to stir that through, and then you can grab a couple of teaspoons. You've
got a lovely subtle touch with your cooking. I mean, throughout this cooking, it's lovely to watch you because you're just doing a little bit of this, bit of seasoning. You're adding as you're going along. I mean, it's real.
I'm a home cook.
Well,
I don't know. Sometimes
it's the best cook because you're cooking with soul.
Sometimes I don't want people to see me chopping onions because it's quite basic. Don't worry about it. But I'm a real home cook.
You're a good onion chopper. What are you talking about? That was delicious.
So you can add a little bit more, but I think it's nice as it is.
And just nice amount of spice. It kind of gets you at the back, but
yes,
lovely.
Always useful to remember as well to fish out the lemongrass and the star anise before. I'm going to serve this up now.
Okay.
But with the lemongrass, it has so much flavour to give that what you can do if you're kind of feeling up to it is just rinse it and then put it. If you're making rice, put it into the rice and it will flavour the rice. Yeah. And that's pretty. Another mega.
Frugal tip.
I can keep going if you want.
This looks and smells really good. I've got to tuck in here. I can't wait any longer. This chili is just sort of jumping out at me and saying this is going to be super intense, but let's have a taste. Not at all, is it?
Not at all.
No. It's
looks quite fiery.
And I like spice. Don't get me wrong. I do like spice.
But I mean, that's not the point of it. Dal to me is comfort food.
Yeah.
I feel like it's got that nice warmth that warms you up from the inside out, sort of very slowly. It's a bit like having a hot water bottle in your tummy.
So we've got a nice Burgundian Chardonnay here. What do you think this is a good match for this kind of dish?
So I'm going to say that embarrassingly, I like to start in a sort of Keith Floyd way and like have a nice wine that I can drink ahead of cooking.
It's the only way, isn't it?
And then whilst I'm eating. And I love a white Burgundy. I love Chardonnay. I think if you're pairing, I think like a kind of modern Riesling is really nice because you still have that residual sweetness, but it's slightly drier, so you've got something to cut through. But I honestly think, and this advice has never sort of seen me wrong before, but if you've got a wine that you really love drinking, a part of it's psychological as well. You actually really love drinking it whilst you're eating. But this is actually quite nice because you've got some sweetness. And with spices, and there's not that many spices in here, remember, because you've just got the cumin, the coriander, a little bit of chili in there. So it's not as if you've got like very complex spices going on. But often the sweetness in wines, and white wine tends to have some sweetness to it across the board, even if it is quite dry. Yeah. Will just stand up to those, like have that robustness where it sort of stands up to the spices. I think, and that's what you're looking for. Yeah. It's like kind of, you want like something a bit bolder to go with it. What do you think, though?
Well, I think I agree. I mean, what's nice about this is I get that onion. The onion just sort of comes out. It's so sort of sweet and almost sort of roasted, and I get it in the back of my mouth. And then I've got the lentils sort of warm you up, and the carrots are perfectly cooked, I have to say.
Oh, very good. Must be that chopping that you did.
Yeah, it's really delicious.
Must have added them in at the right time after I forgot about them.
So, dinner. Great book. I mean, what a wonderful cover. Beautiful cover.
Thank you.
What's next? I mean, are you thinking about doing another book?
I mean, I've always got a book idea on the go.
Yeah.
And so the answer is yes. And I've had this sort of, I really need to sort of sit with an idea because it's so, I don't know if it's the same with you, but a bit nebulous to start with. And then it sort of starts to get smaller and a bit sort of clearer, crystal clear. And so I've just started working on it. I'm super excited about it. It will probably take a couple of years until I'm quite slow when it comes to writing books. And so I am writing it and it's happening. It's live.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It is fantastic. I think that's when you find pleasure in things. I have found I break down into a million different pieces. I had to build myself up brick by brick. And what I found, the thing that I learned was that the closer you are to pleasure, the closer you are to yourself as well. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but I actually really believe it. Yeah. If you're really, that's why I'm here. I only choose to do things that I really want to do. And I really, really wanted to come and chat to you. Oh. And I only cook food that I really want to cook. And I think all of that energy just comes through in the end with whatever you're doing. Yeah. Whether it's a conversation with someone that you want to talk to, like a place that you want to travel to. I feel like, and I think about the dal and when I first cooked it and how I felt like I had a lung full of fresh air, like I was standing on a mountaintop, my fingertips felt fizzy and it felt so good. And then you think about something you don't want to do and how you just feel like so heavy and just like everything is awful and you just can't believe you have to go and do this thing.
And you do it and you do a bad job and you think, why did I do it?
Yeah, and obviously life it doesn't exist in those parameters where everything is just like pleasure-led because that's not real life. But, we've all got to stack the dishwasher, lever off the porridge stains in the morning from, to my girls have eaten breakfast. But largely that's kind of what food is to me is that, and that's where I get my pleasure from. And that's what I want to share with other people.
Right, we've got a question from one of our listeners, and it's from Lucky London Lou. And her question is, which dish have you attempted and thought it would be great, but turned out to be a failure and you won't cook the dish again?
Right. I mean, there's been tons of those.
We've all had
just
them.
One. Yeah. How much time have you got? But the one that stands out is something I tried to make recently, which actually I think you'd probably be able to help with, but it's an Italian dish called malfatti, which has a most perfect name because it's called, is it badly made, badly formed?
Yes, badly formed.
Malfatti. And so made with ricotta, parmesan and egg and flour. Yeah. But actually, when I tried to make it, it was so sticky and so dense.
It's like a gnocchi. I mean, it's essentially like
yes, but it should have when I've eaten it before in restaurants, it's got this lovely lightness to it, and it just makes you feel like you're floating somewhere, like with this nice sage butter or something like that. When I tried to make it, it was this dense little dumpling. that was very sad and not delicious. And I also didn't enjoy the process of it, this kind of rolling and the stickiness around it. And so I'm not sure if I can go back there. How should I have made it?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you didn't squeeze out your spinach enough. The spinach was too wet, made it too cloggy.
Maybe. Yeah, it does sound like it was too wet, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll give you a recipe.
Okay, thank you.
Meera, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed today. Your food is fantastic. You're fantastic. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Recipe with me, Theo Randall. You can find Meera's full Malaysian Dal Curry recipe on the Filippo Berrio website at filippoberrio.co.uk/Theo, where you can also submit a question for one of our future chefs. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share the podcast wherever you listen. Until then, happy cooking.